At exactly 8:12 a.m., the town of Bellwether should have seen the sunrise. It never came. The clocks kept moving. Coffee machines clicked on. School buses pulled up to curbs. Dogs barked behind fences. People scraped ice from windshields and complained about Monday like they always did. But the sky remained black. Not cloudy. Not stormy. Black. The kind of black that feels less like absence and more like something pressed against the window, holding the morning out with both hands. By noon, the first person disappeared. By sunset, there was no sunset. By midnight, the town had learned the first rule. Do not look outside for more than 30 seconds. Because if you did, something outside eventually looked back. My name is Owen Mercer. I was 34 years old when Bellwether lost the sun. At the time, I worked as a dispatcher for the borough emergency office, which sounds more important than it was. Bellwether, Alaska had fewer than 4,000 residents, one main road, 2 gas stations, a volunteer fire department, 1 small hospital, 3 churches, and a police station, with 6 officers who spent most of their time handling drunk drivers, domestic arguments, and moose wandering into backyards. The town sat north of Fairbanks, tucked between a frozen river and miles of black spruce forest. In winter, darkness was normal. We were used to strange light, long nights, pale afternoons, the sun rising late and setting early. But the morning of January 17th was different. People always say that when something impossible happens, you feel it immediately. That is not true. At first, impossible things look like inconvenience. A power outage, a storm, a glitch, a reason to be annoyed before you are afraid. I woke at 7:06 a.m. to my alarm and lay in bed for a minute, listening to the radiator click. My wife, Mara, was already downstairs making coffee. I could hear our son, Caleb, arguing with her about mittens. I don't need them. It's 12 below. My hands don't get cold. That is not how hands work. I smiled into my pillow. Normal morning. Ordinary. Safe. I didn't know it would be the last safe sound I ever heard. When I went downstairs, the kitchen windows were black. Again, that wasn't strange at first. In January, Bellwether mornings were dark. I poured coffee, kissed Mara on the cheek, and stole a piece of toast from Caleb's plate. He was 8, missing 1 front tooth, and deeply offended by everything before 9 a.m. "Thief!" he said. "Tax," I told him. Mara glanced at the clock above the stove. "Sun should be up soon. Maybe it's cloudy." She walked to the sink and looked out the window. I remember exactly how her face changed. Not fear. Confusion. Then concern. "Owen." I joined her at the window. Beyond the glass was nothing. Not the backyard. Not the fence. Not the neighbor's porch light. Nothing. Just black. I thought the window had frozen over from the outside. I touched the glass. It was cold but clear. I could see my reflection perfectly. Behind my reflection, Caleb sat at the table, chewing toast. Behind him, the kitchen light buzzed softly. Outside, there should have been snow, trees, a shed, the alley, Mrs. Delaney's house, the orange glow from her porch lamp. There was only blackness. Mara whispered, "Can you see the shed?" "No." "The light's on out there." I looked toward where the shed should have been. Nothing. She went to the back door and opened it. Cold air rushed in. The porch light was still mounted above the steps. It was on. Its bulb glowed yellow. But the light did not reach anything. It ended 3 feet from the house. Beyond the porch steps, darkness stood like a wall. Mara called out, "Hello." Her voice died too quickly. "No hecho." No wind carrying it. Just swallowed. I closed the door. "Don't do that." She looked at me. I hadn't meant to sound afraid. My phone buzzed before either of us could speak. "Emergency office group text. Anyone else seeing this?" Then another. "Sunrise delayed. Power grid issue." Then my supervisor, Helen Kraus. "All dispatch staff report in." Phones already lighting up. I told Mara I'd check it out and be back before noon. She grabbed my wrist. "Don't leave if you don't have to." Caleb looked up from his plate. "Is school canceled?" Mara and I looked at each other, and for one stupid second, I almost laughed. "I'll call you from the office," I said. That was the first promise I broke. Driving through Bellwether that morning felt like moving inside a sealed box. My headlights showed the road, the snowbanks, the mailbox posts, the frozen vapor spilling from exhaust pipes. But beyond the reach of the beams, everything vanished into black. The sky had no stars, no clouds, no moon, no faint gray hint of morning behind the mountains. Streetlights burned on both sides of Main Street, but their light seemed weak, shrunken, barely touching the ground. People stood on porches in bathrobes and parkas, staring upward. At least, they were at first. Then, Officer Ben Adler used his patrol speaker to shout, "Everyone go inside. Please return indoors until further notice." Some obeyed. Some laughed. Some took pictures. That morning, everyone wanted to be the first person to post the end of the world online. I got to the emergency office at 7:58 a.m. By then, the phones were nonstop. Helen stood at the central desk, gray hair tied back, headset on, one hand over her other ear. "No, ma'am, we do not have a confirmed gas leak." Pause. "No, I don't know why the sky is black." Pause. "Please remain indoors." Pause. "No, do not fire a gun into it." She saw me and pointed toward Station 2. I logged in. Calls stacked across the screen. Reporting total darkness outside. School bus stuck on Ridge Road. "Husband won't come back inside." Dog ran into yard and disappeared. "Northern Lights?" Question mark. At 8:12 a.m., every line went dead. Not dropped. Dead. No dial tone. No static. Just silence. The room went quiet, so suddenly we all looked up. Helen pulled off her headset. Across from me, Nora Pike, our youngest dispatcher, whispered, "What happened?" The lights flickered. Then, all 6 monitors changed. Every screen displayed the same thing. A live camera feed from the traffic light at Main and Harbor. Except the camera wasn't pointed at traffic. It was aimed upward, at the black sky. At first, there was nothing to see. Then something pale moved in the darkness. Not a cloud, not a bird. A shape. Huge. Soft-edged. It passed over the camera and vanished. Nora whispered, "Was that above town?" No one answered. The feed cut out. Phones came back all at once. Every line rang. Helen said, "Answer." For the next 40 minutes, we listened to Bellwether unravel. People called about shadows moving outside windows. People called about relatives standing in the yard and refusing to come inside. People called because their pets were scratching at doors, begging to be let out, then falling silent when the doors opened. The first disappearance came at 11:57 a.m. His name was Peter Lang. He owned the hardware store. His wife Denise called screaming. He was outside clearing the steps. I told him not to, but he said it was just fog. He looked up. He just looked up, and then he walked away. "Walked where?" I asked. "Into the street." "Can you still see him?" "No." "Did he fall?" "No." "Did someone take him?" "No." I heard her breathing hard. Then she whispered, "He went where the light stopped." I typed the words into the incident log, though I didn't understand them. "Denise, stay inside. Lock your doors. Officers are responding." "Don't send them." "Ma'am?" "Don't send them outside." Then she screamed. Not because something had broken in. Because Peter knocked on the door. I heard it through the phone. 3 slow knocks. Denise whispered, "He's back. Do not open the door." "It's Peter." "Denise, listen to me. Do not open the door." Peter's voice came faintly through her line. "Honey, I got turned around." Denise sobbed. "Peter?" "I'm cold." I stood at my station. "Denise, step away from the door." "He sounds hurt." "Step away from the door." Peter knocked again. 3 times. Then he said something that made my blood go cold. "Denise, your sister is standing behind me." Denise's sister had died in a car accident in 2004. The line filled with static. Then Denise screamed once. The call disconnected. Officer Adler went to the Lang house. His body camera transmitted for 7 minutes. Helen put the feed on the main monitor. We watched him move through the black morning with his flashlight and pistol drawn. His beam showed snow, porch steps, Denise's open front door. He called out. No answer. Inside the house, furniture had been overturned. A mug lay broken near the kitchen table. The back door stood open. Adler stepped into the yard. Helen grabbed the radio. Ben, do not go outside. He didn't answer. His camera turned toward the yard. The snow was covered in footprints. Bare footprints! Dozens of them. All circling the house. All facing inward. Adler whispered, "What the hell?" Something moved beyond the fence. The body cam turned. Blackness. Adler raised his flashlight. The beam hit a man standing in the alley. Peter Lang, or something wearing Peter Lang. He stood barefoot in the snow, still in his red hardware store jacket. His face was wet, though no snow was falling. Adler said, "Peter?" Peter smiled, too slowly. Then he raised one finger to his lips. The camera glitched. For 1 second, Peter was closer, then directly in front of Adler. The screen went black. The radio crackled. Adler's voice whispered, "I shouldn't have looked." Then we heard 3 knocks, not from the radio, from the emergency office front door. No one moved. Nora began crying. Helen turned off the monitor. The knocks came again. 3 slow knocks. Then Ben Adler's voice from outside. "Open up!" The office had no windows in the dispatch room, only in the front lobby. Helen motioned for us to stay back and took a shotgun from the locker near the wall. The knocking continued. "Open up, Helen, it's cold!" Helen raised the shotgun. "Ben, identify yourself." A pause. Then Ben laughed softly. "You always ask the wrong questions." Helen's face changed. "What did you say?" "I said it's cold." "No," she whispered. She backed away from the lobby door. I had known Helen for 9 years. I had never seen her scared. Angry, tired, irritated, yes. Scared, never. She turned to us. "Nobody opens that door." The voice outside changed. It became her daughter's voice. "Mom." Helen staggered. Nora whispered, "Oh, God." Helen's daughter, Rachel, lived in Anchorage. "Mom, I had an accident." Helen closed her eyes. The voice outside sobbed. "Please." Helen raised the shotgun again, hands trembling. "Rachel is at work." The voice stopped crying. For 3 seconds there was silence. Then something outside the door spoke in a voice that was not Rachel, not human, flat, curious. "Then why did you answer?" The lights went out. Emergency power came on 5 seconds later. The front lobby was empty, but something had written on the inside of the glass door. "Not in blood, in frost." We learned quickly. By 2 p.m., Bellwether had closed itself indoors. The mayor declared a shelter-in-place order. The school buses turned around or parked wherever they were. The hospital locked its doors. The police station stopped sending officers out unless someone was actively dying. By 4 p.m., people started testing the darkness. Humans are stupid that way. We make rules and immediately try to find the edge. The first rule came from accident. A group of teenagers live-streamed themselves from the covered entrance of the old movie theater. 3 boys, 2 girls, laughing too loudly, telling viewers they were about to prove the whole town had lost its mind. One of them, a boy named Cody Vance, stepped out from under the awning and stared into the black sky. He counted out loud. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. At 20, he laughed. At 27, his smile faded. At 31, he stopped counting. His friends called his name. Cody tilted his head back. Then he walked forward. Not fast, not forced. Calmly, like he had just remembered somewhere he needed to be. The girl filming laughed nervously. "Cody, stop!" He crossed the street and vanished beyond the range of the theater lights. The live stream continued for 9 more seconds. From the darkness, Cody's voice said, "It's beautiful." Then the stream ended. That's how we learned 30 seconds was too long. After that, The town spread the warning through texts, calls, radio, anything still working. Do not look outside. Do not watch the sky. Keep curtains closed. Do not respond to voices outside. People listened, mostly. But darkness is not only outside windows. Sometimes it comes from inside you. At 6:20 p.m., my wife finally reached me. I'd been trying to call her all day. Lines jammed, cell service unreliable, texts failing. When her name appeared, I nearly dropped the phone. Mara. Owen. Are you okay? We're fine. Caleb's scared. I closed my eyes. Keep him away from windows. I know. Lock the doors. I did. Don't answer if anyone knocks. She was quiet. Mara? Your mother came by. My mother had been dead for 6 years. I gripped the edge of the desk. What do you mean? She knocked on the back door. No. She asked for Caleb. My throat closed. Did he hear her? No, he was upstairs. Did you open it? Owen, did you open it? No. I nearly collapsed with relief, Mara whispered. But she sounded exactly like her. I know. How? I don't know. I heard Caleb in the background. Dad, Mara gave him the phone. He was trying not to cry. Are you coming home? I looked at the dispatch room. At Helen pacing with the shotgun. At Nora, silently typing emergency logs no one would ever read. At the phone lines flashing red. Yes, I lied. When? Soon. Promise. The word hurt more than anything that had happened that day. I promise. Mara came back on the line. Oh, and I don't like the basement. That was not what I expected. What? The basement door keeps opening. Lock it. I did. A pause. It opens anyway. The line crackled. From somewhere behind her. Faint but clear. I heard 3 knocks. Mara whispered, It's doing it again. From outside. No. Where? She said. Under the house. Then the call failed. I tried calling back for 11 minutes. Nothing. At 7:03 p.m., Helen made the decision that saved some of us and killed others. We need to consolidate. The mayor had been saying the same thing for hours. Get people to the high school gym, the hospital, and the police station. Places with generators, food, interior rooms. The problem was movement. Nobody wanted to go outside. Nobody should have. But staying isolated meant people would keep opening doors. Keep listening. Keep answering. The official plan was simple. Police cruisers and fire trucks would run loops through neighborhoods, lights on, speakers blasting instructions. People would move only when lights were directly on their doors. They would keep eyes down. No looking up. No stopping. No answering voices. No helping anyone outside the light. That last rule caused arguments. It also saved lives. I volunteered to drive one of the emergency vans. Helen refused. You have a family. So does everyone. You haven't slept. No one has. She stared at me for a long time, then handed me keys. South route. Get to your house last, not first. Why? Because if you get them first, you'll stop thinking clearly. I hated her for being right. The van's headlights felt useless as I pulled out of the emergency office lot. The darkness pressed close enough that the hood vanished beyond the beams. Snow reflected the light in sharp white strips. The rest of the world did not exist. On the van speaker, my recorded voice repeated, Remain indoors until emergency lights reach your residence. Keep your eyes down. Do not look at the sky. Do not respond to voices outside. Proceed directly to the vehicle. I drove with Officer Nielsen in the passenger seat and 2 firefighters in the back. We picked up 12 people from Birch Street, 4 from the clinic apartments, a family of 5 from the laundromat, all blindfolded with towels because the father was afraid his children would look up. At the corner of Pike and Mason, we saw Mrs. Delaney standing in the road. She was 82, lived behind us, made blueberry jam every summer, and fed half the neighborhood's dogs whether anyone wanted her to or not. She stood barefoot in a nightgown, facing the black sky. I stopped before I could stop myself. Officer Nielsen grabbed my arm. "No, it's Mrs. Delaney." "It's not." Her head turned toward the van. The movement was wrong. Too smooth. Her smile was wrong, too. Too young for her face. The speaker on the van continued repeating my warning. Mrs. Delaney raised one hand and waved. Then she spoke in Caleb's voice. "Dad!" I hit the gas. The firefighters in the back shouted as the van lurched forward. In the mirror, Mrs. Delaney stood in the red wash of our tail lights, still waving, still smiling. At 8:14 p.m., we reached my street. I saw our house. Porch light on, curtains closed, snow piled along the walkway. Normal. For 1 second, I believed normal still existed inside. I parked with the headlights pointed at the front door. 2 minutes, Nielsen said. I ran, eyes down, boots crunching snow. The front door opened before I reached it. Mara stood inside, holding Caleb against her hip, though he was too big for that now. Both wore coats. Both had backpacks. "Come on," I said. Caleb ran to me. I grabbed him and kissed the top of his head. Mara locked the door behind her. Then she froze. "What?" I asked. She stared past me. At the van. At the light. At Officer Nielsen waving from the passenger seat. "Owen!" "What?" "Who's driving?" I turned. Nielsen was still in the passenger seat. Both firefighters were in the back. No one was behind the wheel. The van began rolling backward, slowly, headlights pulling away from us. "No," I whispered. The driver's seat was empty. Then a hand appeared on the steering wheel. Not from below, from the shadow beside it. The hand was pale, wet. A face leaned into view behind the windshield. "Mine!" It smiled. Mara screamed. The van's speaker changed. My recorded warning stopped. My voice came through. "But live now. Soft. Friendly. Remain outdoors. Look toward the sky. Proceed into the dark." The van reversed into the street, then stopped. All its lights went out. For 1 second we were outside with no light except the porch lamp. Beyond it, the darkness leaned in. I grabbed Caleb and Mara and pulled them back inside. Something hit the front door before I could close it. A hand. Then another. Then many. Voices filled the porch. Nielsen. The firefighters. Mrs. Delaney. My mother. Caleb. Me! All speaking together. "Let us in." Mara and I shoved the couch against the door while Caleb cried. A window shattered in the kitchen. I grabbed the shotgun Mara had kept from her father and fired once through the dark kitchen window. The voices stopped. Not because they were hurt. Because they were listening. From the basement came 3 knocks. Mara turned pale. "I told you." The basement door stood at the end of the hallway. It was open. Cold air breathed up from below. But the basement stairs did not lead to our basement anymore. They led down into blackness far deeper than the house. A voice from below said, "Owen." Not my mother's. Not mine. Helen's. Then Nora's. Then Mara's. Then a new voice. Caleb's. "Dad, I'm lost." Caleb screamed behind me, alive and in my arms. Something in the basement laughed. We ran upstairs. There was nowhere else to go. The bedroom windows were covered with blankets. Mara dragged Caleb into the closet while I pushed the dresser against the bedroom door. The house filled with footsteps, not walking, exploring, opening cabinets, touching picture frames, learning. A voice downstairs said, "Kitchen." Another replied, "Family room." Another said, "Stairs." Then my voice, patient and pleased, "Bedroom." Mara held Caleb's mouth shut with both hands as he sobbed. The doorknob turned. The dresser scraped. I aimed the shotgun. The thing outside the bedroom door spoke like me. "Owen, you need to calm down." It was awful hearing my own voice used so gently. "I know you're scared." The dresser moved another inch. "But you're scaring Caleb." Mara closed her eyes. The thing continued. "You promised you'd come home." I fired through the door. The blast deafened us. Something wet splattered the hallway wall. Then laughter. Not one voice. Dozens! The door stopped moving. Silence. Then the house phone rang. The bedroom had no phone. Still, it rang. From inside the closet with Mara and Caleb. Mara looked down. Her coat pocket glowed. She pulled out her phone. The screen showed my name. I shook my head. Do not answer. The ringing stopped. A voicemail notification appeared. Caleb whispered, "Don't play it." Mara didn't. The phone played it anyway. My voice filled the closet. I'm outside. Then a pause. Or I'm inside. Then, which one did you let in? The bedroom window exploded inward. Blackness poured into the room like smoke. Not smoke. A shape. I remember Mara grabbing Caleb. I remember the dresser flipping over. I remember something cold wrapping around my leg. I remember Caleb screaming my name. Then light. Real light. Flooding the room. White. Blinding. The high school rescue truck had turned into our driveway. Floodlights pointed at the house. The thing in the room recoiled. Not vanished. Recoiled. Like darkness was a body and the light hurt it. A firefighter named Ruiz appeared at the top of a ladder outside the broken window. Move! I threw Caleb first. Then Mara. Something grabbed my shoulder. It had fingers. Too many. It whispered into my ear with my mother's voice. You'll come back when you miss us. I slammed the shotgun stock backward. It let go. I dove through the window and fell into Ruiz, nearly knocking us both off the ladder. By 10 p.m., we were at Bellwether High School with 200 other survivors. By midnight, there were 500. By 2 a.m., the gym was full of people who had stopped asking when morning would come. The school had no windows in the gym, which made it feel safer. The lights were bright. The generator worked. Volunteers handed out blankets, water, crackers, batteries, whatever they'd gathered. People cried in corners. People prayed. People stared at phones with no signal. Every so often, someone heard a loved one outside and had to be restrained from opening a door. The rules were painted on cardboard and taped everywhere. Do not look outside. Do not answer voices. Do not open doors without light team approval. Do not go anywhere alone. Count your people often. The last rule was added after the Henderson family arrived with 4 children and realized they'd left home with 3. They did not know which child was new. That sounds impossible. It was not. The child looked like their daughter Amy, 8 years old. Pink jacket, curly hair, same scar on her chin, same missing glove. But when Mrs. Henderson tried to count her children, she kept getting confused. Amy, Lucas, Mara. No, Mara was my wife. Amy, Lucas, Ben, Amy again. The names slipped. The new child smiled at everyone. Helen ordered the family separated gently. The fake Amy watched from a folding chair while 2 officers questioned her. What's your birthday? April 9th. Correct. What's your brother's name? Lucas. Correct. What's your dog's name? Sonny. Correct. Then Officer Nielsen, the real one, leaned forward and asked, What do you want? The child smiled. Inside, the gym lights flickered. Every person turned. When the lights steadied, the folding chair was empty. The child was gone. So was Officer Nielsen. Only his shoes remained beneath the table. That's when we understood. It wasn't only outside anymore. It could get in if we made room for it. By the second day, the sky was still black. The state police tried to reach us from Fairbanks. 3 cruisers came up the highway at dawn, though dawn was just a time on a clock now. Their dashcams showed the road into Bellwether. For 11 miles, everything was normal winter Alaska. Gray light, snow, trees. Then, at the town line, the sky ahead became black. Not gradual. A wall. 1 cruiser stopped. The other 2 continued. The first crossed into darkness. Its headlights vanished. The second followed. The radio captured screaming, then static. Then a calm voice saying, Turn around, we're fine. The third cruiser reversed and called for federal help. By evening, the National Guard set up a perimeter around Bellwether. We heard helicopters for the first time at 6:30 p.m. Everyone in the gym started cheering. The sound came closer, rotors thumping overhead. Then, one helicopter spotlight appeared through the gym skylight. The gym had no skylight. The ceiling above us opened into black sky. People screamed. The spotlight swept across the bleachers. Where it touched faces, people vanished. Not burned, not dragged away. Gone. Like someone erased them mid-scream. I threw Caleb under a table and covered his eyes. Mara covered his ears. Helen shouted for everyone to get down. The spotlight moved like it was searching. A voice over a loudspeaker said, "This is Rescue Aircraft Delta 2. Please look up for identification." The voice was wrong. Too calm. A real pilot would have been panicking. Helen fired the shotgun into the false skylight. The ceiling snapped back into place. The helicopter sound stopped. 38 people were missing. The gym smelled like cold air and burnt dust. After that, no one cheered when help arrived. On the third day, Bellwether began changing. Not the people, the town. Hallways in the school led to wrong places. A storage closet opened into the public library. A bathroom stall led to the hospital waiting room. The hallway outside the gym stretched twice as long as it should. Doors developed windows where none existed. Windows developed views into rooms that had never been in the building. In one classroom, desks were arranged around a black square painted on the floor. In another, every wall was covered with photographs of Bellwether residents sleeping. Photographs taken from directly above their beds. One showed Mara. One showed Caleb. One showed me. In each photo, a dark figure stood in the corner of the room, watching. The school principal, Mr. Harrow, insisted the photos must have been planted. Nobody asked by whom. Nobody wanted to answer. At 4:44 p.m., the intercom came on. The school had lost external power and internal communications that morning. Still, speakers crackled across the gym. A woman's voice said, "Good afternoon, students." It was Mrs. Bell, Caleb's teacher. She had disappeared on the first day while trying to retrieve children from the playground. Today's lesson is about adaptation. The gym went silent. Adaptation means changing in order to survive. Caleb grabbed Mara's hand. Mrs. Bell's voice continued. Some animals copy color. Static. Some copy shape. Static. Some copy voices. A long pause. Some copy love. Every child in the gym began crying at once. Not because they were scared, because someone outside the doors had started calling their names. Parents held them down. The voices were perfect. Mothers, fathers, friends, teachers, grandparents, even pets. A dog barking exactly like the one a little boy had lost. A baby crying for a woman whose infant had died years earlier. The doors shook. Then the intercom whispered, "Some doors only open from your side." The south exit opened. Not forced. Not broken. Opened. A man named Roy Kell walked through it before anyone could stop him. His wife shouted, "Roy!" He turned back. He looked confused. Why is everyone on the floor? Then something behind him placed a hand on his shoulder. The hand was long and white. Roy smiled. "Oh!" The door closed. At 6 p.m., Helen gathered a small group in the locker room. Me, Mara, Ruiz, Nora, Dr. Singh from the hospital, Father Callahan from St. Luke's, and Mayor Voss, who had stopped speaking in speeches and started speaking like a man who knew no one was voting again. Helen placed a map of Bellwether on the bench. Red circles marked disappearance clusters. Homes, the movie theater, the Lang House, the police station, the school, the hospital, all connected by lines. Nora, who had been analyzing reports, tapped the center. The first calls weren't random. She drew a circle around the old radio tower north of town. Everything started around here. Mayor Voss frowned. The relay station? Emergency broadcast tower, Helen said. Built in the 70s. Decommissioned in 2011. Dr. Singh leaned closer. Why would that matter? Nora swallowed. Because at 8:12 a.m. on the first day, the tower transmitted for 90 seconds. Transmitted what? She played an audio file from her phone. Static filled the locker room. Then a tone. Low. Pulsing. Almost like a heartbeat. Then a voice whispered. We found the door. Father Callahan made the sign of the cross. The voice continued. We can see your son from here. The recording ended. Nobody spoke. Helen looked at me. Your house is near the old service road. I nodded. I know the way. Mara said. No, I didn't look at her. Helen continued. If the tower is broadcasting something, maybe we shut it down. Dr. Singh laughed once, not because anything was funny. You think this is a radio problem? No, Helen said. I think it's using what we built. Father Callahan whispered. Like a mouth. Everyone looked at him. He stared at the map. Maybe the darkness didn't arrive. Maybe something called it. No one wanted to go. Of course not. But by then staying meant waiting for the gym to become another wrong room. A team of 8 left at 7:30 p.m. Helen, Ruiz, Father Callahan, me, 2 police officers, a lineman named Derek Holt, and Mara. I told her she couldn't come. She said, Caleb needs one of us to come back, not both of us to wait. I hated her for being right. Caleb stayed with Dr. Singh. I hugged him so hard he complained, and I whispered that I would come back. He said, don't promise. I froze. He looked older than 8. Just try. That was the first honest thing either of us had said. We left through the east service door under floodlights, eyes down, hands on shoulders, a rope connecting us. The snow beyond the school glowed under portable lamps. Outside the light, darkness shifted, not moved, shifted, like something adjusting position to watch us pass. The town was silent. No engines, no dogs, no generators, no wind. Our boots sounded too loud. At the first intersection, we saw people standing in the road. Dozens, all facing the school. Some were missing residents. Some were strangers. Some wore clothes from decades ago. One woman wore a summer dress, though it was below 0. One man wore a miner's helmet from another century. Their faces were ordinary until our lights touched them. Then their features softened. Blurred. Rearranged. Trying, Helen whispered. Keep moving. One of the strangers spoke in my father's voice. Owen. I kept my eyes down. I know you hear me. The rope tightened as Mara almost stopped. I squeezed her hand. Not him. The voice chuckled. You never visited enough. I kept walking. At the corner of Mason Street, the darkness showed us sunrise. It appeared between 2 houses, a strip of orange light at the horizon. Beautiful. Warm. The first real color we'd seen in 3 days. Officer Dale looked up. Jesus! Helen shouted. Don't look! Too late. Dale smiled. Tears ran down his face. My God, it's morning. Then the sunrise opened. Like an eye. Dale dropped the rope and walked toward it. Ruiz grabbed him. Dale turned. His face was full of joy. Let me go, my wife is there. Your wife is in the gym, Ruiz said. Dale's smile widened. No, she isn't. From the false sunrise, a woman's silhouette raised both arms. Dale pulled free and ran. He vanished into orange light. The sunrise closed. Darkness returned. The rope dragged empty behind us. Nobody said his name after that. Maybe because it hurt. Maybe because some part of us was afraid saying it would teach the dark another word. The radio tower stood on a hill north of town. 300 feet of frozen metal rising into black sky. At its base was a concrete service building and a chain-link fence. The fence gate stood open. Above it hung a sign. Bellwether. Emergency broadcast. Relay. Authorized personnel only. Someone had scratched another line beneath it. In case of sunrise, do not transmit. Derek the lineman stared. That wasn't there. You've been here. Years ago. Could someone have carved it recently? He rubbed gloved fingers over the words. Ice filled the cuts. Old. Very old. Inside the service building, the air was warm. Too warm. Equipment racks hummed. Lights blinked. Dust covered everything except one console in the center. It looked recently cleaned. On the console sat a microphone, the kind used for emergency announcements. Its red transmit light was on. Derek whispered, "This building has no power." The speakers mounted in the room crackled. A voice said, "Welcome back. Not one of ours. Not quite human. Helen raised her shotgun. Father Callahan began praying under his breath. The voice continued. We practiced with the first tower. Derek moved toward the breaker panel. It can't transmit if I cut the main feed. He opened the panel. Inside was not wiring. Inside was sky. Black sky. Stars moved in the wrong direction. Something enormous drifted past. Too close and too far at once. Derek screamed and slammed the panel shut. His face had gone gray. What did you see? I asked. He shook his head. What did you see? No, son. The microphone clicked. The voice spoke again. Correct. The console screen flickered on. White text appeared. Lesson 3. Replacement requires invitation. Then, who invited us? Letters typed themselves slowly. You did. Helen whispered. No. The screen changed. Footage appeared. Old footage. Bellwether in 1978. A ribbon-cutting ceremony at the radio tower. Town officials smiling. Children waving flags. A pastor blessing the equipment. A younger version of Margaret Bell from the county office. My grandfather standing in the crowd. A man at the microphone said, With this tower, Bellwether will never be alone in the dark again. The footage froze. The voice in the room whispered. We heard. Father Callahan stopped praying. His voice sounded broken. They mistook a metaphor for a call. The tower began humming louder. Helen said, Derek, destroy it. Derek stared at the console. I don't know how. Ruiz raised an axe from the emergency kit. This works. He swung. The axe struck the console. Sparks flew. Every light went out. For 1 second, darkness filled the service building. Then the red transmit light came back on. Not on the console. In the corner of the room. At eye level. A red dot. Watching. Another appeared. Then another. Dozens. Hundreds. Eyes opening in the dark. The speakers whispered with many voices. We can be patient. A hand grabbed Father Callahan from behind. He screamed once before the wall opened and pulled him through. Not broke. Opened. Like a curtain. Behind it was a sunless street, filled with people standing still. Then the wall closed. Mara screamed his name. Helen fired into the corner. The red eyes scattered. Derek crawled beneath the console and pulled a thick cable from the floor. I can overload it. Do it, Helen said. It will take a minute. We did not have a minute. The service building door opened. Outside stood Caleb, my Caleb, blue coat, red hat, tear-streaked face. Dad, Mara gasped. I grabbed her before she ran. No, Caleb sobbed. Mom, please, Dr. Singh said you were here. Mara struggled against me. That's not him. He looked so small in the doorway, so cold. Owen! Mara cried. What if it is? The fake Caleb looked at me and smiled. Just slightly. Enough. I raised the shotgun. Mara screamed. No! I fired above its head. The thing wearing my son's face stopped crying. Its eyes changed. Not black, not white, empty, like holes cut in reality. It said in my son's voice, you would have done it. Mara made a sound I had never heard before. Derek shouted, now! He slammed the cable into the emergency battery core. The tower screamed. Every speaker in Bellwether screamed with it. The red eyes vanished. The fake Caleb unfolded. That is the only word I have. Unfolded. His arms lengthened, his face split. His body opened into a tall black shape, full of stolen features. My mother's smile. Ben Adler's eyes. Mrs. Bell's voice. Caleb's hands. It reached for us. Helen stepped between it and the door. Go! Helen! Go! She fired once. Twice. The black shape recoiled but did not fall. Mara and I dragged Derek out of the service building. Ruiz followed, bleeding from his forehead. Behind us, Helen's shotgun boomed 3 more times, then stopped. The tower lights rose from red to white. The metal structure glowed. For a moment, it became the only thing in town that looked like morning. Then it collapsed. Not physically, visually. The tower folded inward into a single bright point, then disappeared. The darkness above Bellwether rippled. Something vast pulled away from the sky. For the first time in 3 days, stars appeared. Not many. Just a few. But real. Derek laughed through blood. It worked. Then the stars went out. The black sky returned. From every direction, Bellwether spoke. Every missing voice. Every stolen voice. Every fake mother, father, child, friend, neighbor. All together. Thank you for teaching us where the door was. The ground beneath the service building cracked. Light came up from below. Not sunlight. Something colder. The old radio tower had not been the source. It had been a lock, and we had just broken it. We ran. I don't remember most of the trip back. I remember Ruiz disappearing when something that looked like his wife called from inside a parked ambulance. I remember Derek laughing and crying because his shadow was walking beside him, even when our flashlights pointed the wrong way. I remember Mara pulling me forward when I stopped at the sound of Caleb screaming from behind us. The real Caleb was in the gym. I repeated that until the words stopped meaning anything. The real Caleb is in the gym. The real Caleb is in the gym. The real Caleb is in the gym. We reached the high school at 2:03 a.m. The gym doors were open. The floodlights were off. Inside, hundreds of people stood in perfect rows, silent. Facing the stage, Mara and I stopped at the entrance. Dr. Singh stood on the stage, or something that had become Dr. Singh. His face was smooth, featureless, no eyes, no mouth. Yet his voice came from every speaker. Lesson 4, the people in the rows repeated. Lesson 4, my stomach dropped. On the stage beside Dr. Singh stood Caleb, alive, crying silently. A hand rested on his shoulder. The hand belonged to another Caleb, identical, smiling. Mara whispered, "No." The thing on stage spoke with Dr. Singh's voice. Love creates hesitation. The rows of people repeated. Love creates hesitation. The smiling Caleb looked at me. "Hi, Dad." The crying Caleb shook his head. I raised the shotgun. My arms trembled. Both Calebs spoke at once. "Which one is me?" Mara fell to her knees. The gym lights flickered. For 1 second, every person standing in rows changed. Not physically. Conceptually, I knew them as neighbors, friends, strangers. Then I saw what stood behind them. Tall black shapes wearing memory-like clothing. Not perfect yet. Not finished. Still practicing. Still learning how to hold faces. The featureless Dr. Singh tilted his head. "We need one more lesson." The fake Caleb smiled wider. "Choice." Then the real Caleb screamed, "Dad, don't look at me!" That was how I knew. Not because of his face. Not because of his tears. Because my son knew I would hesitate if I looked too long. I fired at the smiling Caleb. The blast knocked it backward. It hit the stage curtain and came apart into a swarm of black pieces that screamed with stolen voices. Mara ran. I ran after her. The rows of people turned as one. The gym erupted. Some survivors woke from whatever held them and started screaming. Others opened like shadows. Mara reached Caleb first and pulled him from the stage. The featureless Dr. Singh raised one hand. Every exit door slammed shut. Except one, the door behind the stage. It led to the boiler room. Or it used to. Now it led outside. Not into Bellwether. Outside. I could feel it. Cold wind. Real stars. Distance. The featureless thing realized the same moment I did. It moved toward Caleb. I tackled it. Touching it felt like plunging my arms into ice water full of teeth. It had no weight and too much strength. It whispered inside my head with Mara's voice. "Let go." Then Caleb's. "Dad, it hurts." Then my own. "You can't save them both." I looked up. Mara had reached the door with Caleb. She turned back for me. I shook my head. "Go." She shook her head too. "Number." The featureless thing began pushing into me, not attacking my body, entering my memory. I felt it searching. My first kiss with Mara. Caleb's birth. My mother's funeral. My father's laugh. My childhood bedroom. My name. It wanted all of it. I reached into my pocket and found the flare Helen had given me at the office. I had forgotten it was there. Maybe that was why the darkness had not found it. I struck it. Red light filled the stage. The thing screamed. Every shadow in the gym screamed with it. The door behind the stage widened. Mara grabbed Caleb and vanished through it. I saw real snow beyond, real trees, a real moon. Then the featureless thing wrapped around me, and the world went black. I woke outside Bellwether. That is what they told me. National Guard found me at the perimeter at 6:12 a.m., lying in the snow beside the highway, half frozen, one hand burned from the flare. I was alone. For 2 hours I did not remember my name. For 6 hours I did not remember my wife or son. Then memory returned in pieces. Mara's face, Caleb's voice, the gym, the flare, the door. I asked where they were. No one answered. 312 people escaped Bellwether that night. Mara and Caleb were not among them. Neither were Helen, Ruiz, Father Callahan, Dr. Singh, Nora, or most of the town. Officially, Bellwether suffered an atmospheric anomaly, mass panic, infrastructure collapse, and a communication blackout during severe winter conditions. That was the story. No one believed it, but nobody could prove anything else. The military sealed the town. Roadblocks, fences, warning signs, airspace restrictions. No media, no residents allowed back. Satellite images of Bellwether showed nothing unusual. Homes, roads, school, hospital, churches, smoke from chimneys, cars in driveways, street lights at night, but no people, at least not in official images. 6 months later, a technician leaked a thermal scan. Thousands of heat signatures stood inside Bellwether. Not moving, not sleeping, standing, mostly inside homes, mostly facing windows, all looking outward. The leak vanished within an hour. So did the technician. I spent 2 years trying to get back in. I wrote letters, filed lawsuits, contacted journalists. No one who mattered listened. Everyone who listened too closely became afraid and stopped answering. Then, on the 3rd anniversary, I received a voicemail from Mara's number. Her phone had been lost in Bellwether. The message was 9 seconds long. At first only static. Then Mara whispered, "Owen, Caleb is learning your voice." I played it until the audio degraded. I sent it to federal investigators. They claimed it was fabricated. That night, someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 slow knocks. I looked through the peephole. Caleb stood in the hallway. Older now. 11. Blue coat. Red hat. Tears on his face. "Dad," he whispered. "I found the way out." I almost opened the door. God help me, I almost opened it. Then he smiled. Just slightly. "Enough." I stepped back. The thing outside the door sighed. In Mara's voice it said, "He told you that would work." Then it walked away. The next morning, every photo of Caleb in my apartment had changed. In all of them, he was looking at the camera. Even the baby pictures, even the ultrasound, even the photo from the day he was born, when his eyes should have been closed. He was looking at me, smiling. I moved 3 times after that. Changed my phone. Changed my name for a while. It didn't matter. Every January 17th, at 8:12 a.m., the sun fails to reach my windows. Only for 30 seconds. Exactly 30. During those 30 seconds, someone knocks. Sometimes Mara. Sometimes Caleb. Sometimes Helen. Once my own voice. I never answer. Not yet, but I am getting tired. That is why I am recording this. Not because I expect you to believe me. Not because I think warning you will help. Warnings are only useful before the door opens. I am recording this because last night I checked a satellite map. Bellwether is still there, still sealed, still blacked out from public roads. But someone has updated the map data. There are cars moving on Main Street, people walking outside the school, smoke rising from chimneys, children playing near the frozen river. The town looks alive. Normal. Perfect. I zoomed in on my old house. The curtains were open. A woman stood in the kitchen window. Mara. Older, maybe. Or something wearing the age she should have reached. Beside her stood Caleb. Not 11. Not 8. Still 8. Always 8. He raised one hand. He waved at the satellite. At me. Then the image changed. The whole town turned. Every person, in every visible street, yard, parking lot, and window, shifted toward the sky. Toward the camera. toward whoever was watching. Then words appeared across the map. Not typed, not overlaid, formed by people standing in the streets. Hundreds of bodies arranging themselves into letters. We remember the sun now. Below that, another line formed. Send more light. The map went black. My computer shut down. At exactly 8:12 this morning, the sunlight outside my window disappeared. 30 seconds passed. No knock. I almost felt relieved. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I did not answer. It went to voicemail. I waited an hour before listening. There was no static this time. No breathing. No voices pretending. Only Caleb. My real son somehow. Older and younger at the same time. He whispered, "Dad, don't look at the sunrise tomorrow." Then the message ended. I don't know what happens tomorrow. I don't know if Bellwether is still trapped in darkness, or if the darkness has learned to make daylight. I don't know if my family is alive, copied, remembered, or waiting. I only know this. The town did not forget the sun. Something else found it. Something that had been waiting where light does not reach. Something patient enough to study us through windows, doors, phones, prayers, photographs, voices, and grief. Something that learned our faces, then our names, then our love. And now maybe it has learned morning. So if one day the sunrise seems late, if your window shows black when the clock says daylight, if someone you love knocks from the wrong side of the door, do not look outside. Do not call their name. Do not answer. And whatever you do not invite the morning in, because the dark does not need to break down your door. It only needs to sound like someone you would open it for. The end.